Hi planting friend, it's Min. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm super excited to share with you my Hoya small leaf collection. So the first one is this one here, which is a Hoya Matilde Light Splash. Gorgeous rounded leaves, a lot of silvery specklings on it, and it's trailing quite a lot. So this plant makes a wonderful hanging basket plant. And I do have another version, which is this one here, which is the normal Hoya Matilde Light. Same sort of rounded shaped leaves. The only difference is not as much silvery splashes on the leaves. And with these plants here, if you want more splashes of silver, the more indirect sunlight it gets, the better the variegation of silver on the leaves. This next Hoya here is called Hoya Heuschkeliana, and this one here comes in that small tiny petite leaves on these cascading kind of stems. The difference I find between this one compared to Matilde Light, the actual leaves tend to be a little bit more elongated, more like a spear sort of shape, and also the edges of the leaves tend to be pointy compared to rounded. This is the green version. It also comes in two different types of flowering version, one that produces pink flowers, one that produces yellow flowers. I actually don't know which flower this plant will produce because I haven't seen it flower before. And it also comes in a variegated version that has yellow variegation on the leaves. But once again, this one here, because of this trailing kind of nature, it's super adorable if you want to let it trail like this, especially if it's hanging in a basket. This next plant here is called Hoya Tisangii Odettae, and to be honest, when I first saw it, I never thought it was a Hoya. I thought it was like a different type of grass because of the shape of the leaves, and it's very different compared to my other Hoyas that I have. The leaves are small, but they tend to be thin and more elongated as well. I still think it's a super cute plant. This plant here is quite bushy because there's actually multiple plants in this pot. And once again, it makes a wonderful cascading plant. And I just adore it because the fact that it's very bushy and it's very easy to actually take care of. One of the easiest Hoyas that I have to care for. All I do is give it bright indirect sunlight and water when the soil is completely dry. It's not fussy about humidity, and that's what I adore about this plant as well. This next one here is called Hoya Khrohniana, and the leaves tend to be more spear-like in shape. There are some silvery specklings on the leaves. What I adore about this plant is that there are ridges on the leaves, so there is some texture to the leaves, and it's not just flat or smooth or waxy. So there is the ridges there, and it's actually lovely to feel this plant, which is a bit more succulent-like. Another similar looking plant is this one here, is Curtisii, and Curtisii, the shape of the leaves is exactly the same as Khrohniana, but Curtisii, the difference is that the leaves, they tend to have more specklings on the leaves, and the leaves tend to be a lot smaller. I have small pots of these plants, and I'm looking forward to them growing and seeing how they grow in the next few years. This next one here is called Hoya Bella. What really attracted me to this plant is that reddish burgundy streak to the center of the leaves. The leaves tend to be a lot thinner. It's not very succulent-like, and the leaves tend to have a pointy edge to the leaves. And this one here is a very easy Hoya to take care of. I've also been told that this plant, when it flowers, has a scent to it. I have no idea what the scent smells like because this plant is only an immature baby Hoya. It hasn't matured enough to bloom. So if you do have a Hoya Bella at home and you know what the scent smells like, I'd love to read about it in the comments section down below. I'm really curious what that actually smells. And this one here is called Hoya Cumingiana, and this one here, the leaves tend to be more shiny, a little bit more smooth. It's also not a very thick sort of leaf Hoya, and the stems actually tend to be very strong, so I plan to grow this Hoya more upright, and then I'll support it more with more sort of bamboo sticks later on to extend the support. But it's super adorable. This one here has two Hoyas in this little pot, and it tends to grow very compact as well. This one here is called Hoya Ordorata, and this one here is very plain looking, the leaves, very beautiful still, and the leaves tend to be very thin, but I've been told that this plant actually flowers spectacular flowers. I haven't seen this plant flower before because a lot of my plants tend to be small little cuttings. In Australia, Hoyas tend to be on the more expensive side, so one of these pots generally cost between $10 to $20. This one here was $15, and that's within my budget range. I couldn't afford the big pot of it. And this next one here, which is a little bit more succulent, the leaves tends to be more elongated, is called Hoya Loheri. And it's a very beautiful Hoya. The leaves tend to be shiny. It doesn't have any silver specklings on it, just a plain green, but I adore it because of the shape of the leaves. It's a little bit more unusual. This one here is called Hoya Lamingtoniae. It's a super adorable plant. There's two on this pot here. This one here, the leaves tend to be more small, more elongated, and it has a pointy edge to the leaves. It also has kind of like this reddish burgundy streak to the center of the leaves. And to be honest, this plant here reminds me of Vietnamese mint, and I love Vietnamese mint, so I had to get it. And I love it. The only thing about this plant is I find this plant here is one of the harder Hoyas for me to take care of. I think it's more because of the Melbourne weather being very cold in winter. However, if you have a Hoya Lamingtoniae of your own and you love to share about your care tips on how to take care of this plant, I'd love to read about in the comment section down below, because I'm still learning how to take care of Hoyas, and it's just lovely to share plant advice and just help the plant community grow. This one here is called Hoya Honey Dew, and Honey Dew, it kind of has a leathery feel to the leaves, a little bit more fuzzy as well, and the edges of the leaves tend to be a darker sort of coloring, and that's what attracted me to this plant. And this one here, it's only very small, so it's going to take quite a while for it to grow and become mature and actually flower, but I'm quite enjoying seeing this plant grow, just the way the leaves are, and it's just a cute, adorable plant. Yeah, love it. This one here, this Hoya here, I'm actually going to say the name because I can't say it properly. I hope it's called Hoya Vanuatuensis. If I said it incorrectly, please correct me in the comments down below. This plant here is super adorable. It's more thick and succulent. It's very small and it's just plain green leaves. Supposedly it also has a fragrance to the flowers. I haven't smelt the flowers of this plant before because this one here is only a baby plant. So I'm hoping in the next few years it will grow and mature and hopefully flower one day. The next one here, which I recently purchased, is called Hoya Haplophilia. And this one here, the leaves tend to be very thin and it has a little bit of cold damage to the leaves. So I'm hoping in spring when the warmer weather comes back, it will bounce back. But it's a super adorable plant. The leaves tend to be very shiny as well, and it has these pointed edges to the leaves. But because the leaves are quite thin, I find that this one here, I actually have to water it more often compared to my thick, more succulent type of Hoyas. So that's all my Hoya small leaf Hoyas. If you did like today's content, I have 2 other videos on my Hoya collection. I'd love for you to go and watch it. Otherwise, you take care and enjoy the rest of the day.